Hi, I'm Renarta Clanton Moyd. I'm a communications specialist with the Cumberland County Schools and your host of Get Connected. During this monthly show, we highlight numerous educational topics that face today's student, educator, and parent in the Cumberland County Schools. Long gone are the days when a student council only held elections so the officers could plan a dance and hold a bake sale or car wash. Today, student government associations and schools across the country are working hard to help galvanize their student bodies in the areas of service and leadership. Now, after this break, we'll talk with some Cumberland County School employees who work closely with members of local student government associations and know firsthand the good work they're doing on this edition of Get Connected.
What if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Again, thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected, where we're talking with Pamela Story, the Cumberland County School Social Work Coordinator and Central Services Student Government Association Liaison, Robert Bass, the Student Government Association Advisor at Byrd High School, and Kevin Hight, the Student Government Association Advisor at Sanford High School. Pamela, Robert, Kevin, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, glad you're here. And you know what, let's just jump in. What's the difference, or is there a difference, between student council, which is what I was long ago, many eons ago, and student government association? Is there a difference?
Well, when I was in high school, I was in student council as well. But I think, and actually the state association is called the Association of Student Councils. But I think with the current push towards civic engagement and civic knowledge, I'm a social studies teacher, of our students, I've always felt it's more appropriate to move to the student government title. I show a video in my leadership class called Mindset, the theme of which is Mindset Matters, and I think when we use the language we want people to regard us as, we're better off. And student council to me just implies we're a club like any other club,
right.
But student government indicates that there's a voice, that students have a voice in making decisions. And
that's exactly the way it was at Byrd. When it first came into being at Byrd back in 1971 when Byrd opened, it was actually in our bylaws that it was called the Student Government Association. And those students at that time were involved in running the school, helping to make decisions. And that's what we are looking to bring it back to again.
Especially with them serving on sit teams and things like that.
Okay. Well, that's good. That kind of gives us an idea. Now, what exactly does the organization do? Because I mentioned in my introduction, long gone are those days of bake sales and car washes and planning that one dance for the year. I mean, our student government associations are out there doing some things. So
right.
Tell us about some of the things that they're doing.
We do a lot of different things. I know at Byrd, we've only been active for about 7 years now, since I've come over and started taking over the program. Mr. Hight has been acting now.
I've been at Terry Sanford for 14 years, but I was at a Stedman Junior High for 4 years prior to that. So I've been doing SGA for 18 years.
Wow.
And so one of the things, you know, like you said, we do a lot of fundraising and things like that to help with community projects that we also do. This semester, my students are going to actually be going out to the school next door, the middle school, to help with their reading program. That is something I actually piggybacked off from Mr. Hight.
Well, and all the things you mentioned, the bake sales and car washes, we still do those
You
too, because we got to have money for all the projects.
You're doing more.
Absolutely. We work on Citizen development of our students. We host at Terry Sanford every year. There's been an election, which is every year. We host a forum, and we like to focus it on the local candidates who don't get a lot of media coverage. So we're doing a lot of education. The month of February was a tremendously busy month for us at Terry Sanford. Every week we had a major program. I think administration looks at us to help motivate students, because students who are connected to the school, you know, as the theory goes, is they attend school, they do better in test scores. So there's a lot more expectation, I think, of student councils than there were when we were on it years ago.
In fact, at Byrd now, it is the student council who actually plans the pep rallies and does the pep rallies.
Really?
Not
No
even
longer
the cheerleaders. We do
cheerleaders.
that.
Yeah,
We do
because I
the-
mean, in the day it seems like the cheerleaders or
Right.
the cheerleading coaches or someone, you know. But yeah, that's great. That is great, and that would make sense. That would make sense. Now I know that both of you all work as advisors, so you're there hands-on with the students daily.
Yes, ma'am.
But now, Pamela, you are the liaison there
Yes.
from Central Services. How do you support these gentlemen and other SGA advisors and students out there?
Okay. In my role as a social work coordinator, I am privileged to work with an outstanding group of SGA advisors such as Mr. Bass and Mr. Hight. I like to consider myself the wind beneath their wings, because on a district level, I provide financial support to the advisors for various activities that their associations are undertaking. I also am there to give consultation and to meet with the advisors on a quarterly basis. And this allows them the opportunity to get together and for us to do strategic planning.
Oh, that's great.
It has been very helpful what she's done, because one of the things, you know, with our monthly meetings or quarterly meetings is that, you know, we as a group have come together and supported each other. Mr. Hight got a lot of help last year with the state convention, and I'm getting a lot of help this year with the state convention.
We're going to talk about that later, because I know there was a lot going on with that, so we're going to talk about that a little later.
Well, if I could comment just real quickly, about 8 years ago, what makes Cumberland County, I think, different and, in my opinion, better than across the state, and when we talk to advisors from all over North Carolina, they're really kind of jealous of us, I think,
Right.
because we have tremendous support at the district level. No other county has that. And we've had it 8 years ago. 8 or 9 years ago, Bill Harrison started. We had this vision of bringing folks together. We've had central office support. We get stipends for doing what we do. We get a little bit of money to help pay our dues and all the stuff to all the organizations we have to belong to. But it's the time to plan together and work together. That's very important, and nobody else gets that. And then when we go to convention or anything else, we go as a delegation and we vote as a block, and we can get things to happen that we want to have happen. And that's powerful for the kids.
And what I've noticed is that this is a very, very strong team. They support one another, they network, and it's not about one school in particular, it's
Right.
about the team, and I love that.
That's good. That is really, that's remarkable. Now, when a student has a thought, well, I really wouldn't mind being on SGA. What are some of the benefits to being? And I know, of course, the college applications. I realize that, but I mean, what are some of the realistic benefits of being a part of SGA?
Well, I can give you a pretty good example of one. About 5 years ago, I had a student who, he had been in a lot of trouble in the middle school. He came up to the high school. He wasn't on SGA 9th grade year. He got elected on his 10th grade year. And I wound up adopting him. Mostly, because I realized there was a real need there. But he changed his whole entire attitude about school, about authority, and even about race because of what the SGA had done. And he has just become so tremendously involved in everything. He went on to Vanderbilt. He's my adopted son. He's at Vanderbilt right now. And he's actually starting an SGA there. He's involved in their SGA there. So
That's great.
And I think you have stories like that all over Cumberland County, really all over North Carolina. I had a young man similar in middle school. He confessed, he's like, you wouldn't have recognized me, because the kid I knew was just fabulous. And as a senior, if there was a scholarship he applied for, he won the Gates Millennium. He's won so much money. In fact, he won so much money, Carolina said, we don't need all this money, you got to send it back. So Student Council can help with developing leadership skills, getting kids scholarships, making them better citizens. I think that's the most important thing. We work on really getting kids to empathize with other people outside their level of knowledge.
And I think that speaks to our current charity that we have adopted in all of the high schools, and that is the Hungry Angels, and that is a backpack buddy program which supports at-risk students and homeless students by giving them weekend backpacks filled with food. And our student government associations have adopted them as our charity of the year.
And we actually, our student government associations have two charities that we support. We support the one that's local, and then we support the state charity, which was a vision from one of Kevin's students when she was the
vice president in charge of that.
And she came up with a state project that we now, all the SGAs across the state, raise money for that one. But again, this one is very important. So we raised money for two different projects.
Plus whatever, you know, we're doing in our own school. But I do want to mention the state charity is Victory Junction Gang up in Randleman. That's the camp for special needs kids. There's no charge to them. And since we've been doing it for 4 years, and I think as a state we've raised almost $100,000 across the state in 4 years. And I'm real proud of that.
And Cumberland County itself, the students of Cumberland County raised enough money last year to send 2 students.
And it cost, yeah, about $5,000. That's just our part of it.
Because it's $2,500 per camper to
per
go.
child, yeah.
Well, you know what? That kind of leads me into the next question I wanted to ask you. As far as you've talked about those particular efforts, what are some of the events our SGAs are sponsoring? Some of the programs? I know you mentioned those charities, but what are some other things our SGAs are doing?
Well, you know, we have a Mr. FTS pageant, which is mostly for fun, but that's one of our big charity fundraisers. And so the girls go out and recruit the boys, and it turns into be a fun night. Boy pageants are much, you know, the girls get all uptight about it.
Yeah.
Boys don't do that. In February, the young man I was talking about earlier, when he was on council as a junior, had the vision of doing a minority awareness assembly, but he didn't want to do just a Black History thing. He wanted it to be all the cultures. We're very diverse, and our school's diverse, but our county. And he put this together, and he did it again the next year, and then this year, he kind of passed on the torch. So we do a lot with education. We've also tried to do some bullying awareness.
Don't forget the leadership luncheons.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So we have a lot of different things we do, not just for our members. I mean, we try to get them educated, but we try to get other kids involved.
Exactly.
Right, and we've even done countywide things where my kids right now are working on, well, for February, they were working on another program for Multicultural Night. They're going to call it a Multicultural Night. It's the first time that we've done this at our school, and so far it's really looking pretty good.
And they've recruited kids from other schools to come in and help with that. So we do pitch in with each other's schools. We got to have that one common theme. And there's a lot of drama sometimes between the schools, but SGA tries not to have that. We try to promote getting to know each other and working together.
That's good. Being wonderful citizens.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we've even done skate night with each other, so that's been really good.
And character building is very important.
That's great. You know what we're going to do is we're going to take a break.
Okay.
You all okay with that? Okay, we'll be right back. But don't go anywhere. Stay put for more Get Connected.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Malcolm, you know energy savers last 6 times longer than regular bulbs.
This isn't my room. It's Baron Davis's.
The basketball player? This is his room?
I don't live here.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected. Our guests are Pamela Story, the School Social Work Coordinator and Central Services Student Government Association Liaison, Robert Bass, the Student Government Association Advisor at Byrd High School, and Kevin Hight, the Student Government Association Advisor at Sanford High School. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you know what? When I think of SGA, or think of school makeups, at high schools across the county, you've got what people would say the geeks, the athletes, the the SGA students. Do you all find that your SGA students battle a perception of some sort?
Absolutely, because the most common thing we hear is only the popular kids. Well, of course, it's an election. When you run for president of the United States, the most popular candidate wins. When you run for governor. So it's an election, it's going to be a popularity contest of a sort. But I think most of us in the county address that. I mean, I know for me, I have so many of our positions are elected, and then I have appointments that the new student body president, the class presidents, and I kind of have to work together, and we look at what our needs are. If, for example, this year, all of my elected offices in the senior class were boys. Well, I needed to have some girls. All my elected juniors were girls. I needed to have some boys. And I try to balance the council along those lines and bring kids in from a lot of different perspectives.
That's great.
So that the kids themselves learn, because the problem is a lot of times if we don't do that, SGA becomes one group of kids, and then they only want to serve that one group. You try to broaden it.
That's good. It brings in diversity.
It does.
Absolutely.
And even this year, I tried to even get a hearing impaired student onto my council, and he really wanted to do it, but it was a conflict with when the class was and when he could meet with us and with an interpreter. But we try to get some of the special needs kids in on it too.
That's good, and that's I think that's a very important thing. People, I think, get so caught up on stereotypes and perceptions of what this individual is, but when you come together, you get to see this person is no different from me. They have the same, you know, types of wants, desires, and those types of things, and the ideals might be a little different, but that's what makes this whole thing so interesting and so, you know, fun.
Right.
And let me say, remember, we are preparing leaders for the future, and certainly many of our young people will go on to serve in capacities such as elected officials, and therefore we pride ourselves in Cumberland County and as well as on the district level to make sure that we have diversity and students have all kinds of opportunities to engage and learn from one another from different socioeconomic levels as well as belief systems, religions, and races.
And I'll add to that because at the state level, I know for a fact that several years ago, the first Hispanic student ever to serve as a district chairman was from my school. The first black female to ever serve as state president was from our school. In fact, we joke in Cumberland County sometimes that we bring the color to the events because a lot of the rest of the state, for whatever reason, they have a more homogenous group. And unfortunately, the bigger cities, Durham is not really involved, Charlotte's not really involved. We're trying to get them involved, which would bring that in that we need.
And also, I do want to just put in that even in some of our student government associations across the district, we have students who are coming to us in living situations that are no fault of their own. In other words, we have homeless students who are serving in various elected and appointed positions.
That's great. That is really
Even on the state level.
Yes, we've had several that are on the state level.
Commendable, commendable. And oh, what our young people can learn from dealing with people from all walks of life.
Absolutely.
That's just wonderful. Now, your roles as SGA advisors, what is your basic role?
I'll let you take that.
We're not really a go-to kind of person. I mean, you know, I'm really learning from Mr. Hight here because he was in SGA as a high schooler, even in college, and then he took over when he got, you know, into teaching. And I've really only done it now for about 7-8 years. So I'm really learning a lot from him. But a lot of it is giving the students to be empowered. You go, you know, I give them an idea. I said, you might want to think about this. Now do it. And I don't give them any help. And they got to figure out how to do it. And it really builds that leadership role in them.
Well, I like to tell my kids that my job really is the paperwork that legally I have to do, fundraising reports and things like that. The kids need to do all the planning. I also like to think that the most important value you need is enthusiasm and willingness to work.
Oh, yeah.
That is the key ingredient. I don't know how you learn that, but the State Association provides workshops. We have a lot of opportunities. Recently, we went to Pinehurst for a state leadership, the advisors got together. They brought in the National Advisor of the Year from Massachusetts, came in and did a workshop with us. We have them at everything we go to. We have a summer-long camp. So if you want to learn how to be a good advisor, the opportunity's there. All you really need to get started is the energy and the enthusiasm and the willingness to work, because it's a full-time job just being a student council advisor, if you do it right.
If you do it right. And that was what I was going to ask you about, the qualifications and training. And
well,
so
may I just add that one of our best advisors recently retired after 40 years. And I call her the best because Carolyn Sellers was truly an icon, and she finally decided to go home, but we wanted her to stay with us. And now we have folks like Byrd High, who is dubbed the guru at this present time.
Well, let me go back. Carolyn Sellers was my den mother in Scouts. Okay, so even I learned from the best.
That's good. That is so great. And you're helping here as well with Robert. That's great. Hey, that's a wonderful thing. Now, I understand that there are leadership classes in several of our high schools. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, actually in all the high schools, I believe they have a leadership class, whether it meets in the morning or in the afternoon. And that was one thing that Dr. Bill Harrison had emphasized that we needed to have, that Dr. Teal has also embraced and continued that. And if it wasn't for their support, we wouldn't be able to have this.
Absolutely.
Because I personally am a biology teacher. And so, you know, of course, they want to make sure that we have all these biology classes covered and the test scores are there and all of that. So it's been really difficult. For me, I've been meeting with my group every morning. You know, that was my plan. My class was in the morning.
Well, at Terry Sanford, as far as I know, we've had leadership class since the 1950s. I mean, when I came there as a student, it was already in existence. And I would say that's the secret. If we have a secret to success, it's that we have the time to meet every day and to get everything done that you have to do, because it is very time consuming, and often the kids involved are your football players and your cheerleaders and president of every other club, and they're working and they're doing everything else. So if we had to meet after school, we would probably not be able to get much done.
And oftentimes when we go to conventions, we hear from other advisors across the state how lucky we are that we have that kind of support, that we have that class, because they have to find the time to the extra time and extra energy to do that.
That's good. Now, when you talk about planning and those types of things, my mind goes straight to this state convention. Last year, Terry Sanford, you all pretty much played the host.
We were the host, yes, ma'am. we didn't play at it.
You were the real deal.
Yes, ma'am.
This year, Douglas Byrd.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit, and I'm looking at the clock on the wall. We don't have much time, but talk to us a little bit about the state convention and what really kind of went into that.
Well, for the planning stage starts maybe 2.5 years out, because you have to identify a 9th or 10th grader who wants to be president. And we had a young lady who really wanted it, convinced us. Then you run and get elected, and then you have a year as president-elect to kind of get your act together, come up with your theme, general ideas. And then from there you have, and also fundraise, and you have from there another year to actually implement. So you really have to think about this long term and start putting things together, but invariably things will fall into place in the last month. It always happens.
And then Kevin passed the torch to Robert.
Absolutely.
All right, Robert!
Glad. And our theme is, of course, the nature of leadership, which is why I wore this tie. Chose this tie because it is the nature.
And the tie we're looking at, I don't know if we can get a close-up of that, but I see porpoise and leopard and a sloth and owl, and the nature,
of leadership, right.
And see, when I'm a social studies teacher, so we did like a civics theme, and I said, well, Robert, you're a biology teacher, do a science theme. So that's what we did.
Right. And one of our big venues is going to be used in the Botanical Gardens for our big state dinner, our big state banquet, and that's going to be awesome because it'll be the first time, you know, that we've been able to use it. They wanted to use it last year and they didn't get to because it wasn't open yet.
And I will say, I think we've both found this to be true. The community has embraced this event and helped us out. And I have to give a shout out to the Fire Ants, because they gave me 400 tickets last year to bring all these delegates out there for free to the game. We've had such Methodist, Fayetteville State gave us money. We've really had a lot of people come out. Dr. Till gave me $3,500 to bring in a speaker. The money this year, same amount is going for the dinner. All the SGA advisors give $100 to host the advisors luncheon. So the whole community really has embraced this event, and I like that. And I wish we could get another school to run for it in the next year or two, because it's much more fun to stay here and sleep in our own bed than have to travel across the state.
Exactly, and make accommodations.
And on top of that, one of the big logistics behind it is finding host homes for 355, 360 students.
Okay, you said host homes?
Host homes.
So they don't go to the hotel?
No.
We don't do hotel convention.
We don't do hotels.
Wow.
Yes.
However, now, luckily for us, most of the delegates are from Fayetteville, so they sleep in their own beds.
Right.
But last year we had to find, I think, beds for about 110. Some school systems don't let kids stay, and that's fine. They stay in hotels. But you still have to get about 50 homes, because we have 2 kids per house.
And it's for a week long?
Just a weekend.
Just a
Weekend.
2 nights.
Okay.
2 nights.
2 nights.
Yeah.
Very exciting, very well planned. It's just a wonderful, wonderful event.
That's good. And about how many students you said?
About 355 to 400 students.
Okay.
It's grown every year. It has really gotten bigger and bigger. And I have to say, I have to give Mr. Hight here his props, because he did an outstanding bang-up job last year with minimal help from the state association.
Well, and Muriel Price, if I can say a name, she was our president who really
Yes.
pushed it, and she was awesome.
That's good. And you know what? Like I said, I'm looking at the clock on the wall. Just want to talk about really quickly, where do you see the future of SGA going at this point? Each person.
Okay. I would like to say, from a district perspective, I see the future as very bright. We have just brought on Cumberland International Early High School. They have become very active in their SGA association, and I just see the enthusiasm and the energy and the commitment from our wonderful SGA advisors, as well as the support from Dr. Till and the principals. So I see great things, and I'm so honored to be a part of it.
All right. Okay. Robert?
Well, I can tell you, from where I've been, starting out 7 years ago with only 5 students to now I've got 25 students, we're really taking off and starting to grow and do a whole lot more than we have ever done before. And it's mostly because of being in this association and working with all the individuals of this county and the ideas that they come up with and how we piggyback off each other. It's just exciting that we're going to be able to keep increasing our numbers and making it a better place for students.
Okay. And Kevin?
Well, I would say I'd like to see us go forward in 2 different directions. I'd like us to get the middle schools more involved, because that helps us build a stronger program at the high school level. And then I'd like our high schools to get more involved with things at the national level. There's a program called National Certified Student Leader, and okay, they'll say I'm forcing it, but I am. I'm forcing my seniors to do that this year, because they have to go through a lot of steps to really learn the process. So both directions I'd like to see us go in.
Wow, got a lot of good things. Wonderful, going in a wonderful direction. That's good. That is really great. Well, I wish you all the very best with student government associations. I hate that I'm not a teenager now and back with you, because it sounds like it's so much fun, you know, but nonetheless, I had to grow up, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have to have you all back, okay?
Please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that being said, on behalf of the Cumberland County School System, we want to thank you for tuning in to this edition of our show and for giving us a chance to help you get connected. Until next time.